A very good afternoon to all our delegates who have joined us for the United Kingdom Investment Summit 2025. We welcome you to the inaugural edition. It's an amazing day. Amazing discussions are happening throughout the day. And I would request you to kindly stay with us till the end to know more about the UK investments. So moving further, please allow me to welcome Ben Armstrong from Pall Mall Investments. Pall Mall Investments is also our premium partner for this particular event. We thank you for that. And I would also like to thank all our partners, the Indian Luxury Association, Benham Reeves, Boutique Luxury Properties, Settle Ease, Ajmera Law Group, and the CMD Club. So without wasting much of time, let's go into the deep discussion and dive into the investment opportunities in UK. Mr. Ben Armstrong, welcome once again.
Mayank, thank you very much for having us again. We're looking forward to an interesting discussion and delighted to be here.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Just for the reference of our audience, we already have done one recording with Pall Mall Investments, which is there on our YouTube as well. So in case you have any questions, I would request you to kindly take that as a reference point. Maybe your answer would be, all the questions that you have would be answered there in the video itself. And if you want to get your answers directly addressed to Ben, you can, of course, leave it in the comment box or you can send us across and we'll make sure that you get the answers to that as well. And before we start, I would request everybody to kindly practice your due diligence before making any kind of investment decisions. The amount of investment summits that we do for different geographies is meant for educational purpose. The idea is to provide you the right guidance with the expert in the industry. So without much ado, let us start with the conclave straight away. So Ben, of course, I mean, the people who have viewed you in the previous discussion, of course, know quite about you, but I would request you to kindly the new audience who have joined us for this particular session, they would like to know more about you. So I would request you to kindly let us know more about yourself and Pall Mall Investments.
Sure, thank you, Mike. Yes, I mean, my background for 25 years was in media. So I built up a media business, which I founded in 1998 called the Cavendish Group. I had gone out and raised approximately £500,000 to start that business. That business in particular was all about taking Western technology in, I think, 12 industry verticals, ranging from automotive through to pharma, through to telecommunications, and taking that to the BRIC country. The BRIC countries, the community. So Brazil, Russia, India, China, except we went in reverse. So we started in China, then India, then Russia, then Brazil. And we did that through 3 channels: online, in person, so in country exhibitions, events, etc., and in print, in quarterly trade magazines, which were printed in the language of the country they were being distributed in. We built up a strong reputation. We became known as the main channel to get Western technology into those countries. And in 2010, I exited the business, having by which stage we had offices in London, Beijing, Delhi, and Prague. So we had a global footprint, a small global footprint, but nevertheless a global footprint, and all the challenges that came with that and all the positives that came from it. From there, I then segued into the world of financial services. I became the managing director of a financial advisory firm, with approximately a small boutique firm with 12 advisors, 70 odd back office staff, dealing in everything from mortgages and protection to investments and pensions. That was a great introduction to the world of financial services and the advice that went with that. And my role in that business was to run it from a back end point of view, and to make it more efficient, make sure it is compliant and doing everything that it should do. As part of that challenge, I wanted to become responsible for generating and driving revenue. So I took the business into the area of inward investment, foreign direct investment, investment-led visas in the UK, which in those days were the investor visa route and the world-famous entrepreneur visa route, which both allowed investors to come to the UK, invest in the UK, and live here at the same time, with a view to gaining indefinite leave to remain at the end of that visa term. And that really brings us to where we are now in terms of Pall Mall Investments is very much driven by the desire to help small companies raise capital, and that is across 16 sectors of industry currently, and we tend to operate in the region of the sort of from 300,000 up to about 5 million is a sweet spot, but we have looked at bigger deals and can get involved in those as well. And accompanying that, we're also a legacy endorsing body for the Home Office for the innovator founder visa route, which a lot of your viewers may well be familiar with.
Interesting. Pandemic has actually changed the overall scenario throughout the world. Things have changed completely. How do you see the post-pandemic sentiments when it comes to investments in UK? How do you see the interest level gauging back again to UK as one of the most preferred markets for investments? Specifically, if we talk about not only India, but as a geography as a whole.
Yeah, I think the market, the world market is changed considerably. Obviously, UK Brexiting from Europe was a big change to the overall economy on a global scale. However, I do believe that within the UK, we still are very strong in terms of innovation and disruption, and therefore investment opportunities that can align themselves with those areas, I think are very, very strong over here and offer to investors a very strong opportunity to invest in a market which is strong, stable, and secure.
Interesting. One question would be to specifically regarding your specialization. I mean, you specialize in property sourcing, asset management, investment advisory, and so on and so forth. What distinguishes your approach when it comes to working with international investors? Because international investors are pretty much do their homework in terms of segregating their investments in more developing economies, considering the rate of returns for their investments. How do you negate that and navigate that and ensure that UK is still the best option for your investments and for the rate of interest or rate of returns when you talk about it?
I think just a small point to clarify, we're not an actual advisor in this sense, but more an introducer. There's a big difference there, and I think what our area of expertise and speciality is actually understanding what the potential investor may be looking for in terms of their background, their interest, the areas they're looking to invest into or be introduced to. And I think as a result of that, we're then able to find opportunities which are effectively off market, which they normally wouldn't ordinarily have access or identify, mainly because they're not necessarily ones that have been written about in the Financial Times or on Bloomberg. And consequently, our role in that is finding for them opportunities which represent a strong investment return, but at the same time mean that they wouldn't normally have been able to identify and I find that within their own network.
Interesting. Now there are few FAQs that we have received, and we thought it will be good to discuss with you. And it's absolutely your call whether you want to answer that or you want to leave that, and we can of course move to the next section. One important question which came across was about the post-Brexit situation. A lot of people have said that, of course, investing in any of the European countries, you get the EU access. And the kind of access it gives you is basically allowing you to expand your business to a much larger audience and to a much larger geography compared to only UK. How do you see that, and what are your perspectives on that?
Yeah, I think it's an interesting one, and I think a lot of people over here in the UK were disappointed that a lot of the promises made pre-Brexit to the voter that if UK were to leave the EU, all the solutions were in place and would be enacted upon very quickly, and that covered all the visa issues, travelling in and out of Europe and travelling from Europe into the UK. Now, clearly that is not the case, and there are issues at the moment, but my understanding is they are being resolved so that access to the UK and UK access to Europe is soon going to be not the headache it currently is, and makes Europe much more accessible. That's a key area I think our current government are working on. I think it also still highlights the opportunity that UK is still very investable, is still very attractive, and is still very secure. And all the reasons why investors look at the UK are still there. It's just that we're a slightly different market now, but I don't think the opportunity has dissipated at all.
Okay, okay. That makes a lot of sense. I believe it's on individual requirement basis or individual perception basis that you need to work accordingly. I mean, UK, of course, is a very dynamic market compared to the other markets in Europe, which is something that I've seen over the years. So it all the more makes more sense to do your again homework well, exactly what you're looking at, and then accordingly you can make the investment decisions. So, moving forward, I mean, again, we would like to understand about the common misconceptions of people who are actually looking forward for doing investments in UK. You have been dealing with a lot of the different investor community over and over the past decades or so. So, what is the common misconception that you have seen people have when they are looking for any kind of investments in UK?
I think one has to be very clear about what investments offer anyone, and some of the concerns obviously is that if someone is over promising the opportunity in terms of return and what they may get from that, one has to look at that carefully. I think there is always, as we are aware, a risk in investing. You may lose everything, unfortunately, but I think the key to it is to recognize that looking at any investment opportunity is to look at the team behind it, the opportunities within that, what they're hoping to achieve in the next 3 to 5 years, if that's indeed their exit strategy. And I think it's a question of being careful. One, as you mentioned earlier, one needs to carry out one's own due diligence to make sure that the detail is there behind the offering, and that it's not something that sounds great, looks great on paper, but once you've scratched beneath the surface, there actually isn't much substance to it. And I think that given the UK market and the access to information in the UK market, I think that information can always be identified and understood.
Interesting. So as we progress throughout the day, I'm going to ask one of this question to all of the panelists that we have. Is a lot of people have mentioned that UK is only meant for the top tier investor community, and it is not meant for people who are into the medium investments or lower than that. What is your take on that? How do you see it as an open opportunity for all segment of investors?
I think it depends on what they're looking for. I think it depends on when they're looking for a return, and I think it depends on how much they're looking to invest, as ever. I think there are investment opportunities from low level investments up to significant investments. The investor needs to be clear as to when he needs access to that money in the future, and so how long is he prepared to have the money vested? I think is a key question. And once they've understood that, then I fully believe there are opportunities for any kind of investor up and down the country, depending on what they're looking for in return and what they're looking for in terms of time.
Okay. Just to create a situation where I'm the investor and I come to you and I say, Ben, I want to do a certain kind of investment with an X amount of money. I'm not declaring any percentage to it. But again, my idea is to get good returns and some good assurance of getting good returns for it. If not, of course, some kind of assurance that I'll get my money safely parked in UK. So what will be the first advice you can give to me?
Well, the first advice is going to be that there is no guarantee. Unfortunately, there's no surety that you're going to get the money back at all, and that is investment is a risk. And I think that anybody that doesn't start that conversation with that comment is being slightly disingenuous and misleading. I think it's very important that the investor appreciates that from word go, and depending on the investment they're looking at, it may not be possible to liquidate the investment at the time they want to, but more in line with when the company is looking at an exit strategy, which may be 5 years' time, it may be 3 years' time. I mean, that may not always happen depending on the growth of the business and its trajectory. So I think if you're investing in those kind of companies, you've got to be prepared to risk losing everything, which, albeit unlikely, is a possibility, but at the same time have also got to recognize that it may not be funds that you're able to access when you need them. And so if that is critical to your strategy, it is probably not the investment opportunity for you. Having said that, the exit events tend to be looking at 4, 5, 10 times, the amount you've invested. So they can be quite exciting at the same time, but it can be a question of time.
Got it. And I really appreciate, Ben, that you have been very open and candid about the fact that investments, of course, comes with a lot of risk. One has to do the checkbox ticking for all the kind of investment that he's making in UK or any part of the world for that matter. And just to understand, do you think real estate is still a comparatively safer option to invest in UK?
I think real estate offers a interesting opportunity. Again, depending on what you're looking at, what kind of property you're looking at, where it is located in the UK, and again, what kind of returns you're hoping for as an investor.
Okay, got it. That's interesting. Okay, now any success stories which comes to your mind, which of your recent experiences, where somebody came to you and of course came with a set of preconceived idea that you want to do an investment in this particular segment. You said, okay, no, this is not going to be the best option for you. This is the best option. You can go with this. Any such success stories which comes up to you right now?
Sure. I mean, we've got several, but one that would spring to mind is an investor that came to us a few years ago, looking for medtech or something within the medtech field, and we identified a business in London. We created a very strong relationship with that company, and they, memory serves, they invested somewhere around 200,000 sterling. And have recently gone through an exit, and they've been bought out, I think, for somewhere in the region of 540,000. So they've seen a significant return on that. Admittedly, that was over a 7-year period, so slightly longer than anticipated, but nevertheless, the return is very attractive.
Interesting. Now, this is question from an Indian investment perspective that he would like to understand about the certain legal or tax-related liabilities which come across doing investments in UK. I mean, this question is something which is, of course, meant for a chartered account expert, but still, if you have any idea, would like to throw light on that too.
Yeah, what exactly is the question, Mayank?
So basically, if somebody is looking for investment, but he needs to get some advice over the different tax implications which come across in transferring money from India to UK. So
yeah,
the double taxation treaty is there. Of course, people do understand that. Yeah, but if you can throw some light on that.
Yeah, no, of course. And I think it's a very important question, but it's also quite a technical one. And what we would do in that instance is actually introduce them to some of our well-known tax advisors that we work with on a direct basis, because it's important, it's crucial in an area like that to get the advice and make sure the advice is correct, so that they're comfortable with what they're doing and how they're going to do it. So in that situation, instead of us giving advice which would be correct but would not necessarily is in our field of expertise, I prefer to introduce them directly to tax advisors that we feel very comfortable with in terms of their reputation and their ability.
Interesting. Of course, that makes more sense because ultimately it's a huge chunk of money which is coming from India to UK, and it has to be processed in a way which is more acceptable and more within the boundaries of that particular territory as well. So we need to do that kind of work or homework before doing that kind of investments. That absolutely makes sense.
Correct.
Now, I mean, of course, I mean, things have evolved, things have changed, investors' perception have changed. How do you see the future of investments in UK now?
I think what we've seen recently with the advent of a new government who are now very much past the honeymoon period. I think that we understand what the government are trying to achieve. We may not always agree with it, but we understand what they're trying to achieve. And I think that whilst the market has been, in a degree of turmoil, especially from Mr. Trump over the other side of the pond with the various tariffs that he's imposed and the instability that created to the markets in general. I think now we're seeing at the end of the market, we're looking at a degree of the opportunities are still strong. I think that there is very interesting businesses there that are raising capital at the moment, and I think the returns are strong. So I think that what's coming from this difficulties is actually stronger opportunities and a sort of filtration of the businesses that are still standing now, the ones that actually are very investable. So going forward for the next year or so, I think that what we're looking at is a tougher market, a more discerning market, but nonetheless a market that offers significant opportunities.
Fantastic, fantastic. Thank you so much, Ben. But before we conclude, of course, we would request you to give the one piece of advice to all the budding investors who are planning to invest in UK, who are watching us live through this particular UK investment summit.
Yeah, I think when I'm looking at a business that we've been newly introduced to, I think it's always interesting, it's key to understand who the founders of that business are. Not only who they are, but what their background is and what their previous experiences are. And commonly, not always, but commonly, to have a founder, to be working with a founder who is on his second or third startup business is always interesting, because inevitably they've made all the mistakes in the first business and they've learned from that. And so what you're now investing into is not only the business, but the experience that that particular founder now has. And what you'll see there is a much stronger offering because of the experience that they've had in the past. So what I would always suggest is, when you're looking at a new business opportunity, talk to the founder, talk to the CEO, and talk about his background and where he comes from and what his previous successes have been. And from that will give you, I believe, a degree of comfort and a degree of understanding that they really do know what they're talking about and are very, and clearly the reason they're confident is based upon the experiences. Some good, some bad, not always good for sure, but some good, some bad. The experiences they've had in the past and how they're going to make sure they don't make any of those same mistakes again.
True, very true. Thank you so much, Ben, for your time. And I really hope that the people who are watching us live were able to get some knowledge about the subject matter. Of course, if they want to get more information, they can definitely come back to you or let us know. And we can, of course, do one-to-one meetings with you through the online meeting to start with. And we really look forward to hosting such more sessions with you in future as well.
Great. Well, Mayank, thank you very much for this. It's been most interesting. And yeah, looking forward to lots more conversations. And any of your viewers who'd like to get in touch, please do. And delighted to talk further.
Thank you so much, Ben. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Mayank. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.